Hey Larry, it's Jason. How are you? We are live right now.
Hey, I'm proud to hear somebody else has computer trouble instead of me. Just me.
It's been really persistent problems all week, and I'm 3 minutes late, which is a rarity for people who watch the show. That almost never happens. I am currently totally unable to get my regular cameras started. I can't get any camera connected right now. It's really strange. Wait a minute. Okay. Well, I've got the camera on the laptop, which I don't normally use, but we can try to make that work. Larry, how are you today?
Well, I'm hanging in there, I've got to say.
Not feeling well.
I did not get my system to allow me to read the piece you asked me to, so we'll just wing it.
Not a problem. There's so much going on for you and I to discuss. This is really going to be just one aspect of it, but I've titled today's episode, of course, Aneurysm or Arkancide, because we're talking about Jenny Moore, the journalist who most recently had been investigating a matter where someone had alleged that Bill Clinton had raped him as a child. And I wanted to talk to you, Larry, because obviously, you know, allegations are tricky things. People can make them quite easily, but, you know, backing them up with evidence is something we've seen a real lack of lately. Do you have any information, or had you ever experienced Bill Clinton? We all know that he's raped adult women. Have you ever seen him interact with any underage people?
No. He knew that if he ever did that, and I found out, we had one standing rule, and it was for real. It was a really standing rule that if I ever caught him doing stuff like that, I would beat the living hell out of him before I turned him over to law enforcement. And he knew I would. So I find no proof in that arena.
In your own personal experience?
At all about him.
In your personal experience with him. Right. All right. Well, of course, that doesn't mean that it didn't occur.
Well, no, it doesn't mean it didn't occur. And remember, I would have been the man designated the fixer if something like that were going on.
Right.
So I find it hard to believe, not impossible, I'm not saying impossible.
Right.
But I am saying I find it hard to believe that he had that type of stuff going on.
What about all the Epstein
number
Island?
one, and then number two would be the Stevens group would have come down on him for something like that. So once again, I don't see it.
Okay, and that of course is a bank in Arkansas that you've spoken to us about. You don't think, from what you know about Bill Clinton, despite how many terrible things you've described that he's done and that he's asked others to do, this doesn't ring true to you?
Nope. Does not.
But what about all the Epstein Island trips and everything? I mean, that would seem to be underage people.
You know, Jason, once again, there are a million allegations against Bill Clinton. And, you know, I can only say that I just don't believe it.
Got it.
I know what little character he had, which was not much. And I know what Hillary would allow or not. I know what he would do in certain situations to, to further his political career. And these things just are not on the list. Now, could they happen? Yes. You asked me if I believed it. And the answer there was no. I don't believe it, buddy.
Right. Well, and also, specifically, I asked if you had any firsthand knowledge of it, which you're telling us you don't, and I accept that. So that's that. So, yeah. Now, Jenny Moore, we'll just continue talking about her for a bit. She was a former law enforcement officer who was found dead, to my knowledge, last night in a hotel room in, let me get the name of the place here. This was the Capitol Heights, Maryland Country Inn. It's like a Radisson Hotel there in Maryland. And there's a lot of activity around this death, Larry. A lot of the people that are active in the alternative news community are really kind of looking into this. I get it that you're not onto that type of information maybe as much as you are the Fox News cycle, Omarosa releasing these tapes, Paul Manafort defense resting. Perhaps we should touch on some of those topics.
Jason, like I say, there are tons of stories about Bill Clinton, tons of them. And I can only speak to the ones that I personally witnessed.
Right.
And it's not my job to be the truth police. It's not my job to be out here, and I just can't.
Right.
I cannot defend his honor because there was none. There was none there.
So, I mean, it's certainly,
there wasn't any.
If you heard testimony from a witness who said that this happened, it's certainly not beyond the realm of possibility. But again, we're going into speculation. I apologize, Larry. I was really thrown off by this technical problem. I was able to get it finally going with one camera here while we've been streaming live. So just earlier today, the defense rested in this Paul Manafort case. And of course, this has been a linchpin in Mueller's investigation against Donald Trump. Peter Strzok, of course, was removed from his position at the FBI. It does seem like there's a lot of indicators that this house of cards is coming crumbling in. And I'm seeing a lot of indicators as well that there's activity that's kind of bubbling up around some of these old stories having to do with some of the fake lawsuits that have been brought against me. There are other players out there who are bringing these things up again. There's no new information. They just keep churning it out. Can you talk a little bit, Larry, about the playbook? How, if an idea is the idea that they decide they're going to do, even when it looks like they're going to lose, do they change ideas? Do they change their approach, or do they keep pushing the same thing? How does it work? Help us get some insight there.
They keep switching off until they get one that sticks. Or at least that's the way we did it. You keep bouncing and bouncing until one of them kind of has some believability that people are getting, into. So that was the pressure.
And if there's a bit of believability there, do they sort of drive that thing home till the wheels
Yes.
fall off, or do they keep coming up with new ideas?
Now, when they find one that's kind of about halfway working, they drive it home all the way.
Got it. See, because that seems to be what
They
I'm
never change
experiencing.
their story.
Yeah, they don't change it. They just keep reviving it
Nope.
and bringing it back like almost from near death, huh?
Yep. They sure do.
And that's essentially this Russia-hacked story. And it would seem that the removal of Peter Strzok from this testimony of Lisa Page, something that you were talking quite a bit about with this insurance policy, Strzok's wife being in the SEC, that was a pretty big deal, wasn't it?
Well, it was. It was a very big deal.
Anything new happening with that?
Mm-mm.
No.
Not that I see. Not that I see, Jason. The they just, you know, they're seeing some success in their cover up, and so they're staying with it.
Right, right. All right, so let me keep going down this road, Larry, because, you know, as you and I have been doing these conversations every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, we're developing a bit of a rapport. We still have yet to meet in person, and I would like to do that someday. I'd like to come to Arkansas and speak with you. But we're starting to understand each other a little bit better, and one of the things I value about you so much is your insights, you know. And Larry, I hope you won't take offense at this, because it happens to almost every single guest that I have on. It seems whoever I have on, there's, you know, a certain number of people who say, hey, I love that guest, and there's a certain number of people who say, oh, that guest is a liar, or a this, or a that, or whatever. I like to set that aside because I don't know what the answer to that question is, and I'm not questioning you about that. I just like to have these conversations with you and let people come to their own conclusions. In my view, you have a lot of experience in the political world and a lot of experience with the Clintons, and you can tell us a lot of things.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, Jason, this is part of the mystique of the Clintons. They put everybody through this. Everyone through this
You okay, Larry?
challenge.
Larry, you're
I'm
all
sorry?
right? Are you feeling all right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my... The point is, everybody goes through this with the Clintons. They make everyone go through this soul-searching process. And believe it or not, it has worked throughout the years. It has worked. People, how do you think you come up with people, Jason, that hate the Clintons and people that love them? You know, you just find that to be inconceivable.
Right.
But it's not. It's not.
Right. Right.
I mean, people hang in there.
Right. Of course.
So,
Well, the thing that I'm interested in is their methods, their practices, you know, and you can give us a lot of insight into that, because I feel like there's somewhat of a playbook that is being drawn from. And I want to give you an example. It's this whole thing. I never really knew Jenny Moore. I met her, this journalist that is allegedly dead. I met her very briefly when she appeared. I had no idea that she would be there, but she appeared at the Seth Rich press conference, which in and of itself was a rather strange thing in my view. When I tried to dig deeply into that, I was shut out by the individuals who set up that press conference, and that doesn't really seem like the best way to get press coverage. Jenny showed up and sat right next to me at this press conference, and I had no idea she was even there. She started speaking at the press conference, and I recognized her voice, so I felt it would be worthwhile to reveal her once she started speaking, because, you know, people that have come to me in certain ways I don't necessarily trust. And I didn't know what this woman's agenda was. She had put out tweets about me that were not based in fact. And here she was sitting next to me at a press conference. And now suddenly, last night, when she's found dead, there are these other YouTube channels that are trying to connect me to her death by saying revealing her at this press conference in some fashion may have tied me to, you know, exposing her location. This press conference took place over a month ago and was not at the hotel that she was found at. So I'm not really sure what they think they're revealing by linking me to this, but it sounds like a predetermined plan. At the moment that this woman is supposedly found dead, all these other people who are directly linked to the individual who first started reporting about this are trying to tie it to me. What does that sound like to you?
Right. Well, it sounds just like what they do. I mean, it's never their fault. Never. It's always someone else's fault. They're always clean. And everybody else that they choose are dirty. It's just the MO. That's what they do.
Right.
And it's horrible. And it's horrible when it's being done to you. It's horrible. It truly, truly is. But it's what it is. It's just the way they do.
Right.
And it's how they can pass on incrimination to others. I mean, how do you explain the ability to do that? I mean, how do you explain that ability to so flippantly pass on that blame? They're just able to do it.
Right. So people in the comments, Larry, they're asking, why did I reveal this journalist's identity and show her as being there at the Seth Rich press conference? I mean, certainly a month ago, I had no idea she would show up dead. I just didn't know who this person was. And here she was. She didn't come up to me and introduce herself and say, hey, I'm Task Force, nice to meet you. She positioned herself right next to me where I was very clearly photographing the press conference, and then she wasn't even trying to be stealthy. It wasn't like she came to the press conference and didn't say anything. I didn't know what this person looked like, so I wouldn't have recognized her if I saw her. It was only when she began speaking and I noticed that she was sitting right next to me that I wanted to reveal who she was and that she was there, because for all I know, she could have been part of a plan for me to show up dead in a hotel room. So just to answer the questions of anybody who's wondering why I showed her identity, it's because she's associated with people who I do not trust.
No, I mean, it's just, Betty, it's just bizarre, and it's the way it is. And there's nothing you can do about it. There is nothing you can say about it, and there's no justification you can use to rationalize it to yourself or anyone else. You just can't. You cannot do it. You can't.
So let me ask you, Larry, about a few other people.
You'll go crazy.
Right. Well, forget about rationalizing it. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what's going on. I want to ask you about a few other people that perhaps you know, perhaps you don't. You remember, of course, Troopergate. That was a big deal, right?
Right.
Where it came out that the Arkansas state troopers were basically, you know, corralling women for Bill. I wanted to
Right.
ask you about an individual who is closely associated with the revelations of that scandal, a guy by the name of Peter W. Smith. Did you know Peter at all? Do you remember him?
I knew of him. I did not know him during that time.
Right.
I did not. And once again, Jason, if he were soliciting women for bills, man, I'd have had to know about it.
Well, Peter
I
W.
would've.
Smith was the one who was behind the revelations of Troopergate. He was certainly an enemy of the Clintons, I would think. Longtime enemy of the Clintons.
Well, don't know, but I can tell you, I talked to Patterson and Terry about him when he first started bubbling up, and they knew nothing of him. Neither Patterson, Terry, me, any of us knew anything what this guy was investigating, what he was up to.
You didn't
And
know
what
anything about
knowledge he
what Peter
could have
Smith...
had.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
You saying you didn't know anything about what Peter Smith had been investigating?
Right. We didn't.
At the time of the
And I
Troopergate
talked
revelations, you mean?
At the time of Troopergate, I talked to Patterson, Perry, everybody. And this guy just shows up, supposedly pulling off this investigation, and we didn't know who he was, what he was up to. We didn't know anybody he had talked to.
Huh.
So go figure,
What
right?
do you think that means?
Well, to me, that means he wasn't doing shit. Excuse me, I didn't mean to say it that way.
No, that's okay. So you're saying what then? He was
He
some
was
sort of insert that they put there to say he was the guy behind Troopergate?
I would say probably so.
Well, it's interesting, Larry.
I mean, if you were investigating Clinton and the women, you would have to come to some women that would come to us and tell us, you know, what was going on. You would have to. You would have to. And it did not happen. Did not happen.
Okay. So you're saying
So
Peter
you
Smith did
tell
not...
me what that is.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. There's a lot of strange things happening with Peter Smith. Do you know where he is today, Larry?
Nope.
He's dead.
No. That's what he will get if he were close to anything of any significance.
See, that's why I bring it up, because here we've got Jenny Moore, task force, found dead, allegedly, in a hotel room, in a hotel outside Washington, D.C. According to True Pundit, she was investigating allegations of rape being brought forth by someone who claims that Bill Clinton had raped him when he was an underage boy. And so she shows up dead. Some YouTubers have pointed out some anomalies in terms of, you know, how the information came about and how they so quickly came to this supposition that she died of a brain aneurysm. There has been no CAT scan or autopsy that I'm aware of, so this seems like information coming out quite quickly. But it's very curious to me. And Peter Smith also showed up dead in a hotel room. That was allegedly a suicide by helium inhalation with a bag over his head. And last week I had on the show Tom Lipscomb, who is a publisher and a journalist and he's a long-standing journalist, award-winning journalist, member of the Council on Foreign Relations. What do you think about that?
I think that all adds up. to an Arkancide.
It does.
All the elements are there for an Arkancide.
It's a bit of a vague...
Truly are.
Right. It's a bit of a vague statement. Talk to me specifically, Larry, about your personal experience with members of the Council on Foreign Relations and what your understanding of what that group is all about.
Well, the Council of Foreign Relations, as such, we dealt with the Progressive Council, which was innately more prestigious than the Council of Foreign Relations. And by that, I'm saying that their dedication is to destroying the government of the United States of America. They truly, truly are. And that's who I had exposure with.
Right. So you didn't really deal with the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah, it was country after country. It was everything.
Right.
And in that day, the Clintons were eager to fulfill the demands of the Council of Foreign Relations.
Right.
They were absolutely happy to deliver whatever they needed, as long as they supported and backed the council. As long as they backed Progressive Council.
It's funny, Larry, when I search for the Progressive, I mean, you've told us about the Progressive Council, of course, but I think most people haven't heard of it, or at least I hadn't before you mentioned it. And when I put in Council on Foreign Relations, I don't even finish typing that before Google brings me to CFR.org. We've heard Hillary Clinton say she takes input from the Council on Foreign Relations. We've heard Barack Obama say that and everything. But I've never heard of the Progressive Council before now. And when I Google it, it just brings up a Facebook page, not a full web page. And it says the future of democracy, the 28th of April, 2018, which is past, obviously. They're saying Taj Vivanta Lucknow is the venue. I'm not sure I have the right Progressive Council. Do you know where I could find more information about them? I'm interested to see what they're all about.
I would think you would not be able to find more information about them because you're not to be able to locate them. They're a covert operation, Jason. They are a covert entity. And it's amazing to me, it just kills me, when people all over the globe don't realize that these people don't want to be acknowledged. They don't.
Well, they're operating in secret,
aren't they? They
don't
want people to. It's right. I mean, if they're not, they don't want to be talked about. They don't want to be known.
Right.
And that's why you don't hear about them.
So,
and then when people like me come out and dare to talk, there's considerable risk involved in doing it.
people are asking right now, what is your motive for doing
it? My motive for doing it is it's my country they're trying to destroy. It's my motive.
Right.
I'm trying to save my country.
Right. So in your experience in working with the Clintons, when you did have occasion to interact with the Council on Foreign Relations or people who were part of the Council on Foreign Relations, what can you say about that?
Now, hold on 1 second. I'm getting a call from somebody. Hold on. Just stay with me.
No problem. So people, while we're waiting for Larry to come back, I'll address some of the comments. I've been in communication with Thomas Paine, and I don't want anything that I've said here today to be misconstrued as anything against True Pundit or Thomas Paine. I have a very good relationship with Thomas Paine, and I trust Thomas Paine and True Pundit, and people will notice that I wasn't commenting at all about the alleged death of Jenny Moore until it appeared in True Pundit, and I found it very interesting that True Pundit is reporting and including what appear to be text messages between Thomas Paine and herself related to testimony from a witness to these alleged crimes by Bill Clinton. And this is all material that's up on truepundit.com. I'm not showing any private messages from Thomas Paine or anything like that, but it's certainly the situation grows more and more curious, and people, of course, are emailing me that somebody says I took it upon myself to dox her. No, I'm sorry, that's not what happened. Someone comes and sits next to me at a press conference and makes her voice known. She's doxing herself. If she did not want to be seen or known to me, why would she sit right next to me and speak in a voice that I'm very likely to have recognized? My curiosity was piqued because it seemed at that moment, like so many other times, that the individual that Jenny Moore is most known for working with has set up these situations that seem designed to entrap me in some way. So I'm trying to get to the bottom of what might be going on relative to that. I have no information regarding Jenny Moore other than what we have heard from Robin Gritz and other YouTubers, aside from this True Pundit article. And Thomas Paine is in a remote location, so I've been able to speak to him by telephone. He and I have been texting this morning, and okay, so we've got an Indonesian website, progressivecouncil.in. That sounds quite strange. Let's take a look at that. Progressivecouncil.in. There's a lot of things happening right now. I feel that this, well, it's certainly the same logo as what we saw on that Facebook group, so thank you for that, Tomcat. And they're tweeting, Progressive Council. That's interesting. I had never heard of this before Larry mentioned it to me, and this certainly looks like a far less sophisticated website than from something like the Council on Foreign Relations. This website definitely looks more complete. It's got nicely laid out all these different stories, headers, footers. This other thing just looks like a much more simple website. But I mean, we have to dig into this to really figure out what we're dealing with here. Yeah, it's, I mean, again, the thing that I'm most sensitive to and most on the lookout for are these operations, you know? We had a guest on who was talking about, and the Skype is exploding. It's interesting how that happens when I go live. I'm looking at what some people, oh wait, that might be Larry. Hello? Larry?
Yeah, are you there?
Oh yes, I think we got disconnected. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I'm sorry for that.
Can,
All right,
Larry?
go ahead.
Okay.
Now I'm back on.
Okay. So we were just looking at this Progressive Council. As you said, they seem to be operating in relative secrecy, not a lot of exposure on the internet, not a lot of information. There's a lot of people commenting on this video, Larry. They want to know how you feel, what is on your mind, what would you like to share with us today? The problem that I get into is that if I do that, then some people are telling me that I'm allowing you to lead me down some road, and if I ask you questions, then people say I'm leading you down some road. So why don't you share with us whatever you have on your mind right now?
Well, that's a good trick.
Or I could continue it my way. See, this is what happens. I get started off with a technical problem, so I'm a little frazzled, and I arrive in this seat not fully ready. And you know, you are telling me that obviously you're having some technical issues as well. You weren't able to review the article. We don't have that many facts on this Jenny Moore death. We need more information, and there's a lot of stories coming up. It was very strange to me, and I was asking you some of those questions earlier about, you know, replaying the same hand, etc., and Peter Smith, because Peter Smith has, to my surprise, been back in the news last week, although nothing new has happened with Peter Smith. They want to focus us on this notion that Peter Smith was looking for 33,000 emails from Hillary Clinton, and that according to Shane Harris of the Wall Street Journal and this website called Lawfare, which is a blog run by Ben Wittes, who is purportedly the best friend of James Comey and the same guy that James Comey was leaking information to. So the feeling that I'm getting is that there's a lot of people who are getting very nervous. Peter Strzok is no longer in his position at the FBI, possibly far less effective at covering things up. Andrew McCabe is no longer there. James Comey is no longer there. Is Jeff Sessions getting ready to rear up and strike at some of these traitorous individuals who have infiltrated the government, Larry?
Yeah, could be. Could be. You know, it's been years since I have had involvement with them, so I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what their situation is. But I assure you, they are so I don't know. It's been years.
Right. Well,
but I'm telling you, they are out there. They are progressively working. And they are the greatest terrorists. They're just trying to I just don't know how to explain to your listeners the depth and continuity and I just don't know how to close with them. They're I don't know how.
Right. So I think it's possible, Larry, that people have maybe an unrealistic expectation of you. You're not embedded with the Clintons now. So when we do our show here, I try to pose my questions to you in such a way that they are tapping into your historic knowledge of the methods, the patterns and practice and all that kind of thing. You know, and it's difficult for you to comment, I would imagine, on things like this 757 that landed in Arkansas last week from the Department of Justice. Did you have any firsthand interaction with anyone who knew about that, or can you give us any insight into what you think was going on with that?
No, I can't. I mean, not because I won't, but because I can't. I don't know.
Right.
Its purpose or intent.
I mean, at this point, you're just a guy sitting in your house in Arkansas, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I like to ask you these questions about, you know, here's what's happening now, and does it seem like a real situation, or does it seem like something that's concocted. For instance, there are so many trolls in our comments today, Larry. It really exceeds the normal amount. And I wonder if that's not got to do with the fact that I've put Jenny Moore's name in the title and we're talking about that. I didn't know Jenny Moore, and people are asking me why I didn't trust her. Well, because I didn't know her, and the person that she was associated with and working with was someone that I didn't trust. And people are getting angry. They're saying she was fighting for children and now she's dead. So they're angry about that. My thing is, I haven't seen any reporting outside of a few YouTubers and then people re-reporting on the YouTube reports. So before we determine that this person is who she said she was and doing what she said she was doing and died in the manner that we've been told, I just want a little confirmation on that. Because it seems to me there are so many of these mysterious deaths, Seth Rich, Peter Smith, that they try to push a story across the table, and if we don't have the facts straight from the beginning, it starts to go off in some pretty wild tangents. So Peter Smith...
Absolutely, and they use that. The Clintons use that. They use disinformation as a tool.
Right. So, for instance, they put out some sort of unsubstantiated story, start blaming it on somebody else. For instance, this dossier, it's so focused on Donald Trump that, you know, there's been nowhere near as much energy put into trying to verify the information in the dossier, but yet there's been a 2-year government investigation going on.
Yep.
So I'm seeing patterns here.
Remember, you want to look at a pattern. Here's you a pattern.
Yes.
Hillary is fixing to run in 2020. She's going to. Now, she cannot run in 2020 until she clears the road of certain people. And I'm, unfortunately, one of those people. So there's going to be a sizable amount of Arkancides that have to take place for her to run. Got to. Got to run. I mean, it's got to take place or she's in trouble.
Right. But don't they lose their ability to operate in this way, Larry, as James Comey and Andrew McCabe and Peter Strzok are removed from their positions? Aren't they in jeopardy right now? This is unprecedented, you know, uncharted water for the Clintons right now.
Well, they've got to move in this method. Hillary is not, as you know, she is not a campaigner.
Right.
She's not. She cannot win the support of the people through traditional powers that politicians use. She can't. So she has to compensate. And the way she compensates is through, you know, just her resume, and that's the way she's got to go. Doing her resume. If she doesn't have her resume, she can't win. So,
well, again,
know that.
I mean, I'm looking at just sort of the information surrounding this information. You know, we knew the Manafort trial wasn't going in Mueller's favor from the beginning. We knew that the Lawfare blog, the Wall Street Journal, and MSNBC with Rachel Maddow had kind of worked together to put out this transmedia campaign convincing everyone that this GOP operative, Peter Smith, was working to find these 33,000 emails. And they bring that story back almost from the dead and start pushing it out, not because it's motivated by new information, but because they really want people to listen to it again. I saw it the other day in the Gateway Pundit as if it was a new story. And there was no new information. They just sort of, I forwarded the story to Charles Ortel, and Charles thought I had sent him a year-old article, but it was actually a newly posted article of old information. And I'm showing it right now to everyone. They're focusing now more on the fact that it was a plastic bag and not speaking so much about the helium. A lot of people have emailed me, actually more than one person, saying that manufacturers of helium, like what you would buy at Walmart to inflate party balloons, have made a change to the composition of the gas so that it is impossible for someone to suffocate themselves with the helium. Now, obviously, if you had a plastic bag over your head, you could do that, but it's just so strange to me that an 81-year-old guy, even if he had some sort of terminal illness, that he would kill himself by suffocation. It seems a very unpleasant way to go, and a strange thing to do. Why not just let the disease run its course, get his life insurance, and let that go? And why is this story coming back now? Gateway Pundit, Jack Persobic put it out at the same moment. Alex Jones has been deplatformed. There's sort of all these things happening. And, you know, someone has proposed, Larry, that the removal of Alex Jones from YouTube and Facebook and Spotify and iTunes is a staged incident. What do you say about that?
Part of clearing the road.
But do you think that it's
And
done
I'm telling
by...
you, that's what they do. They clear the road for the Clintons. The Clintons must clear the road. And it's a combination of crazy deaths, crazy judicial things that, just to be honest, nobody would believe, because they're so blatantly dishonest that they're going to say nobody would do that. But they do. They do. And it's back to what I've told you and your audience since day one. Their limits of what they will do are so vast that, you know, people measure the Clintons by what they would do. And of course, if you were running for president in 2020, Jason, you would never consider outing. You know, you just wouldn't consider it. But, you know, you just wouldn't
do it.
Consider it. No, you couldn't.
Larry, let's go back to talking about methods, because obviously since you've left the employ of the Clintons, computers and all kinds of things have come about that would cause them to use somewhat different methods. So when I'm doing the work I do with Charles Ortel, I've learned a ton from Charles, and it seems to me that one of the biggest scams is for scammers to get involved with these 501c3 tax-exempt organizations. These are charities. And they want to do it because it makes stealing money like 40% more effective, because you don't have to pay tax on it. But also, it sort of hides their wrongdoing behind this shroud of benevolence, where if the Clintons are allegedly providing HIV drugs to poor children in Africa, how could you even dare criticize them or examine anything about what they're doing, because what they're doing is so great and benevolent? And there's a person here, Larry, in our comments right now who I've never seen before. It's a person whose YouTube profile I'm showing right now. Their name is Renee R. Now, this may be a real account. I don't know. They only have 2 subscribers, and certainly people who aren't making videos don't necessarily have a lot of subscribers, but there's no picture of this person. It doesn't show me when the account was created, and this person has put in a comment saying that today is a day to sing praise for Jenny's work. To do anything else but honor her work is shameful, and to blame Jason on any level is not what she would want. The work is the same truth-telling space. Now, this is not a particularly negative comment, but I don't know who this person is. I don't know what their goal is, and there's a lot of commentary in here that I think is designed to push a narrative. I want to know, first of all, if I checked local news in the area, and I didn't hear anything about someone being found dead in the hotel. I'm just seeing it on YouTube and people re-reporting from YouTube. So before we get too deep into this, I want to establish a couple things, because there are some strange goings on here. And Kelly, who I've seen here many times, says they're building up a story to have someone save the day. And see, that's what I'm getting at. There are aspects of this story that seem familiar to us. Someone is found dead in a hotel room. They had made an accusation against the Clintons. I mean, is it Arkancide? Are they trying to get people to report right away that the Clintons did this so they can discredit this person? I mean, when I see these other websites coming up with my video saying that I exposed this person, somehow trying to tie me to the incident, it seems very strange to me. I did not go out of my way to expose this person. She sat herself down right next to me and made her voice heard, quite clearly wanting me to know that she was there. So is that a setup, Larry, or what is that? Hard to say, right? Larry, you sound like you're having maybe a rough day. Do we want to maybe come back another day when you're feeling a little more strength? You okay? Larry, you all right? Okay, let's give you a minute. We'll give you a minute. Okay. So yeah, I've been trying to kind of give you some room to breathe there. It sounds to me like maybe today is not a great day for you.
It's not a good day.
Okay. So let's wrap it up for now, Larry. And I know everybody is hoping that you'll feel better. And it sounds like you're struggling to breathe. So maybe the heat there in Arkansas. I can hear you struggling. All right, so let's leave it here for now. There's a lot more to be investigated about the allegations that Jenny Moore was looking into. There's a lot more to be investigated about her cause of death, certainly surprising. I have known in my life 2 different people who suffered spontaneous brain aneurysms. They were both in their 30s, so it can happen to anyone. One person survived, the other person unfortunately did not. So we're going to need to continue looking into this. Larry, are you feeling okay there on the other end of the phone?
Yeah, I'm just listening
Okay.
to you.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to fill in the
Go
space
on.
because I was worried that you maybe weren't doing so well.
Well, I'm not having a banner day, but it's going to be okay. Jason, it's going to be all right.
All right. Is there anything you want to leave us with, Larry, before we wrap it up?
Not really. Just beware that she is planning and they are willing And everybody's just got to play heads-up ball, Jason. Everybody's got to stay ahead of. We just got to stay ahead of it. We can't.
Okay. I hear you, Larry. Everybody's got to stay vigilant. We've got to be aware
Yes.
that anything and everything might be a deception, correct?
That's right. They're going to use tricks that your audience, this audience, has never seen before. And that's why they are. And you might as well get ready, plan up for it, because it's going to happen.
Right.
It's going to happen. Trust me. They are going to use the
Larry?
yeah, and Jason, this is
Sounds
not a wonderful time.
Yeah.
This is.
Larry, let's have you get some rest, and if you're feeling up to it, we'll come back next week. But I can hear you struggling. Is everything all right? Are you there in the house with anyone? Do you need any help immediately?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, I'm going to wrap up the stream, Larry. Stay on the phone. I'm going to talk to you after we cut it out. Thanks for watching, everybody.